What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this POV review by AutoTopNL. My name is Max, and today we are taking a look at the first EV M car. This is the BMW i4 M50, and today I'm going to show you around it. We're going to talk about the technology, about the drivetrain, the electric motors and all that stuff. We'll take a look at the interior and then we'll take it for a drive towards the Autobahn for an Autobahn blast. So the first EV M car. This is it a full-blown M? No, I think it's an M performance model, basically, the M50. The i4 is also available as a 40, which means you have rear-wheel drive, one motor. The i4 M50 has a dual motor setup. So let's take a look at the spec, because this is basically your new 4 Series Grand Coupe made into an EV. So it is a very pretty car, I have to say. Really like it. This spec is beautiful as well, with frozen Portimao blue. Really lovely. And then this car, of course, because it's an M performance, you get all the cerium grey accents around the grille as well. And we have the carbon fiber exterior pack, which adds some carbon fiber, like this little intake surround here. Very nice. It also adds these carbon fiber mirror caps, and wheel wise we've got these optional 19-inch wheels, which are very nice. The bigger the wheel, the worse the range, of course, so I think 19-inch is a pretty good size. 20-inch I think is also possible, but I do think it will hurt your range. Behind that we've got M Performance brakes for the M50 as well. We've also got these door handles, which are flush. I think that also has to do with the range. They're not great to hold somehow. Your hand kind of slips out sometimes and you have to get used to it. I know it's a super small detail, but it is something I noticed. Here we've got the fuel filler cap, of course, with the charger, AC and DC. So you can charge up to 200 kilowatt at a fast charger station, which means you can go from 10 to 80% in like half an hour, which is not great. The competition is doing that a little bit faster, and cars like the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the new Kia electric car are doing it way quicker. So this is the 5th generation e-drive by BMW, and they're not at the cutting edge of technology right now with this EV stuff. It's not bad, but it's not groundbreaking either. So at the rear we've got an i4 badge and we've got this M50 badge. Now I have to talk about this badge because I think it looks kind of weird. We've got this big M and then this small 50 next to it, which kind of makes it look like someone bought an M logo on AliExpress and put it in front of a 50 badge. Why is that not the same size, like with an M340i or an M550D or whatever? It's always the same size. This looks kind of weird. Don't know why they did that. And then carbon fiber exterior package also adds these panels on the rear bumper. Quite a large panel actually. And we've got a little carbon fiber rear spoiler as well. Now we can actually open the bonnet, but you won't see anything, of course. But because this is a regular car, you still have your regular bonnet. And can we open that? You just have some electric motor stuff. I hope you guys can see that, because of course we've got an electric motor right there. So let's take a look inside. Oh man, it's cold. Okay, so let's start it up. There we go. So on the interior we get a very nice upgrade over a petrol or diesel powered 4 Series. You get this big screen with the new iDrive 8 in there. This came from the BMW iX, and this dual screen setup with this curved display, it is really, really nice. This is also going to be in the 3 Series and 4 Series facelift that's coming later this year. But I do feel like this is an upgrade over the current setup, because you have this basically floating display with some more carbon fiber trim down here, which is like curved as well. It's really nice. I think it's a big upgrade. The only problem is you do lose some of the buttons, as you can see down here. So your heated seats are now in the climate menu instead of right there. So you have to go there. And then you have 5 settings. For some reason, I don't know why. Yeah, so that is a bit of an inconvenience, and so is the fact that you used to have this button right here for your driver aid systems, and you could press it once to go to individual and hold it to turn everything off, like your lane keep assistant, stuff like that. Stuff that has to be on by law when you turn on the car, but you pretty much always want to turn off. You have to do that somewhere else now. You have to see, it's taking me too long already. You have to go here and then to this one, driver settings. And then here, and especially this one, the fact that it tries to steer you back into your lane is so horrible. I always turn that off. That is so annoying. But yeah, I don't really like that. I think there are some things that people use a lot that you should just keep as a button. I don't care that it's an EV and everything has to be buttonless and touchscreen and whatever. They kept the buttons on here, which is great. They should have kept the buttons on there as well. In general, this all looks really good. I think, you know, it's a touchscreen, response is great. But this new iDrive system with this app, basically this like Android look, I don't really like it. I think the previous iDrive system is much more intuitive. And of course, we've had that system for so long that it just works. I think it's the best system out there. It's basically the only system, and we drive a lot of different cars, so you would expect that you would get used to everything, but it's basically the only system where you get into a car and you always know where to find everything, which is not the case with some other systems. So yeah, I don't think this is actually an improvement, but it does look cool. In front of us, we've got a big digital display, as you can see. So yeah, of course there are no dials anymore, no speedo, no rev counter, it's just all digital. And I think they went a bit overboard with this. They tried to make it look like a spaceship, and you have these, this is Eco Pro, you get this weird abstract, what is that, a freaking desert dune in blue or whatever, and then you have Comfort, which is this desert, another desert, and then you have Sport Boost or Sport, and this is like a Mars desert. I don't get it. And then here the speedo, you can see that changes as well from Eco to Comfort to Sport, but it's just a bit much. I think it's a bit over designed, you know. This looks like Iron Man's shoulder pads or something like that. It doesn't serve a purpose. It just looks like a spaceship's vault, and I don't like that. I think it's too much. Other than that, of course, this is basically a 4 Series. The seats are really great. These are the optional M seats. And then in the rear, you've got some decent space as well. The only problem is because this has been developed, of course, on a platform that's already there. You don't have the benefits from an electric car, like a flat floor, which gives you a lot more space to move around in the rear. So this is for some cables, apparently. But yeah, it is a very, very nice car. All right, so let's take it for a little drive and we'll talk some more about all the important stuff. So in all drive modes, except for Eco, you get this sound, this driving sound, okay? So in Sport, it's the loudest, and it's made by Hans Zimmer, the film composer, which is kind of cool. I like it. I think it's cool. I like the fact that it changes accordingly. I really like that. I think every EV should have something like that, and it should be, you know, you should be able to turn it off as well, because you don't want it all the time, but it's fun. I think it adds some cool stuff. Okay, so let's talk about the important stuff. We've got 2 electric motors, as I said, one at the front, one at the rear. The rear one has 313 horsepower, the front one 258. Add that up, you have 476 horsepower and you've got 730 Newton meters of torque. So driving along, you definitely have a nice amount of power. Well, and it's quick, you know, it's seriously quick. If you select the Sport Boost setting, so this one, Sport Boost, you get a boost of power for 10 seconds and you end up with 544 horsepower and 795 Newton meters of torque. That is a lot. That is also the way they are able to get this car from 0 to 100 in a claimed 3.9 seconds. We'll do that later on. 3.9 seconds, but it is quicker than that. We've been able to do 3.74 in these conditions. So it's wet, seriously wet. So I think in the dry, 3.5 at least should be possible, which is crazy. Especially for this amount of power and this weight, because the car weighs almost 2200 kilos, and that is a lot, especially if you compare it to a Tesla Model 3, which is a lot lighter. But that car has the benefit of being developed as an electric car from the start. And this one is based on an internal combustion engine platform. So it all works very differently. BMW is coming with a new platform, a lot of new platforms in a couple of years, the Neue Klasse. And this means that all the battery stuff has been built into the chassis basically. So yeah, should be fun. Should be a lot better weight-wise. Okay, so let's do a launch. Sport Boost, no one behind me. I'm going to stop. Foot on the brake, full throttle. And that's wheel spin up to like 80 kilometers an hour. And then it starts gripping. So the car actually manages the power front to rear, left to right. And it does so in like milliseconds, and that is basically the first stage of the stability control, which is super clever. Now once you get going, it grips like crazy. It's really impressive. So even though it weighs 2200 kilos, you really don't feel that. They have done an exceptional job with managing the weight. We've got adaptive dampers all around, we've got regular springs at the front, and then we've got self-leveling air suspension at the rear, because there's 120 kilos of batteries at the rear, so they had to implement the air suspension to cope with that weight. Now that was a little burst of power and we were already at the top speed of 225 kilometers an hour limited, which is a shame. I mean, main competitor is a Tesla Model 3 Performance, I would say, and that car goes up to 261 kilometers an hour top speed, and it gets there so quickly that it just feels like a bit of a waste. It will go to like 230, I think, on the speedo, but we'll slow down a bit using the brakes, which are super clever, because when you hit the brake pedal, first it starts regenerating, and then when it can't anymore, it starts braking. So you always maximize the amount of energy that you recuperate. This, by the way, is a 100 to 200 run. And the fastest we've been able to do was 8.67, which is ridiculous. That is, honestly, that is super quick. Let's do another one. If you compare that to a Tesla Model 3 Performance, it does 10.12. So it's crazy how much faster it is, and that is mainly down to the fact that they developed these electric motors and they don't use permanent magnets anymore, and that means that they don't use rare earth metals, which is a very big problem that has been solved. That was a big problem looming over electric motors, but it has been solved apparently now. But that also means that they can vary the amount of power extracted, and it means that the car just keeps going. Normally when you launch a car, an electric car, it's super impressive down low, you know, off the line it's mega quick, and then at like 130, 140 kilometers an hour, you feel that the car starts slowing down in its acceleration. That there's like, you know, a maximum that has been reached and it can't deliver that power anymore. With this car it just keeps going, which is really, really good. And it also delivers that performance consistently, so it doesn't overheat, it doesn't limit the power, it just keeps delivering that same performance, which is key. Now, as I said, the brakes are super clever, but the problem is that you do feel what they did. Like, you do feel in your pedal, the pedal is very sharp, it's very sensitive. It can surprise you when you hit the pedal and you're like, oh, that was a bit more than I was expecting, which is not super comfortable. And the very strange thing is that it seems like it keeps decelerating for like a split second. A couple of tenths of a second, it stays in that position, and you release the brake and it doesn't immediately stop braking, which is super strange. I don't really understand why that is. I think because it's still regenerating. It's not great. Now we also have our gear lever down here. We are in drive right now, but we also have something indicated as B, as you can see, which is brake. So if I hit that, you basically have one pedal drive. It starts regenerating immediately when I release the throttle. You slow down quite a bit. I'm not the biggest fan of this. I prefer like sailing. This car doesn't really do that. You have the option of B and drive. It is either one pedal drive, which is quite a lot of deceleration, or you can go for drive and it's still regenerating, as you can see right there. But all in all, I have to say I really like the driving experience of this car. They have masked that weight in an exceptional way, and the car feels like an M car. It really does. It feels like an M performance car. It feels like the equivalent to a BMW M440i Grand Coupe, and I really like that. I think that that's a really good approach to an electric car, and I think they should have taken that approach even further by not overdoing it with the speedo graphics, with all that nonsense, with getting rid of the buttons on the dash. They should have just kept that approach to everything in the car, in my opinion. I want some regular dials to look at. I just want a speedo and a power meter or whatever, but not this dramatic. What is that? It looks like Hans Zimmer brought Christopher Nolan to the meeting, and Christopher Nolan said, well, I have some interstellar graphics for you, you can use. This is basically the planet that Matt Damon was on. Well, not really. Or this was the planet that Matt Damon was on. So, yeah, I don't know. There are so many things to love about this car, and a few little things that could be, well, improved. I think that BMW already has the better things, but they just went a little bit too far, in my opinion. Other than that, absolutely love the car. Range-wise, maybe we should talk about that as well. We've got an 80.7 kilowatt usable battery, and that amounts to a range of, according to BMW, at least 416 kilometers for this M50, and at least 493 kilometers for the 40, the rear-wheel drive one. So it's not bad. Compared to a Tesla Model 3, of course, it's not great either. But I do think that, you know, BMW is still developing this, and I guess this will get better in the future. The problem is with this amount of range, and with this range indicator you have right there, is that it bases the amount of kilometers left on your driving of the last, like, I don't know, 10-15 minutes. Which means that if you drive it hard, the range goes down really quickly, like a kilometer every 100 meters. And if you drive it slowly, it just stays the same, which makes it really difficult to gauge how much range you really have. And it means that I've been driving this car for a week now, that you're always thinking about when do I need to charge and for how long when you use the car a lot. And I really don't like that. I think that means that you don't have enough range, and it also means that charging it up is not quite quick enough. But that might also be just me getting used to electric cars, because you know, it's the same with any petrol car. It's just the fact that you're thinking about it so much that bothers me. All right, I think I covered everything. Hope you enjoyed it. You can subscribe by clicking the big button in the middle. You can also check out this video or go check out this playlist right there. See you at the next one. Bye.